Gang, it's Spence from WP Launchify. I was just on the Facebook group when Eric Slater and a couple other folks were asking some good questions about what to use GroundHogg for in regards to, let's say, onboarding new contacts versus users. And there was sort of a secondary discussion over here with John Whitford about how fast it works with WPFusion. So I wanted to show you one of my experiments that I'm doing right now, because yesterday I had a great conversation with Adrian Toby over at GroundHogg. I'm super excited about the possibilities of what GroundHogg can do when used on a WordPress site natively with WPFusion. It seems like there's going to be some huge advantages. I've been making some notes here in my computer that I'll share with you. But right now I want to show you the basics, a couple points that are really unique versus using a third-party SaaS CRM. So let's go over here and start with the setup. First of all, I've gone ahead and created a page called Become a Cold Lead. And I'm going to use the built-in form capability, which is really neat because it's super fast on GroundHogg. And I've seen the videos there where it can also integrate natively with an existing form you use, such as Elementor. But out of the box, for example, I've gone ahead and I'm going to set up GroundHogg in the funnels. I've created a funnel using the start from scratch, and I just called this Cold Lead. And this is essentially what I'm going to use to bring in somebody who is not yet an actual customer. They haven't used WooCommerce. They haven't identified themselves as a prospect who I need to actually put into the WordPress site. And the reason I'm differentiating is because even though technically we're on a WordPress site and it's super fast to get them in, they're really being kept separate as a contact from a normal user in the user table. And it's something you got to keep your head around, because normally you have that contact being added in a faraway place on the CRM. But here it's like they're in the dashboard. You can see them. You can interact with them. You can even track their behavior without them being logged in. And then what's going to happen is, if at any time I either identify them as a prospect or as a customer, or they self-identify by doing something, i.e. taking a lead magnet or a Tripwire product, then they can instantly become a user in the user table. And in doing so, all of their tracked and tagged behavior that happens here on the site is right there for use. Now, technically, you can do all of this stuff right now with a third-party CRM and WPFusion, but it's a little janky. And there's also some limits because of the fact that you have to deal with a remotely located server, right? You're dealing with an API up and a webhook down in order to transmit and synchronize and so forth. Whereas this just feels and acts more instantaneous. So here's the example. I've got a cold lead funnel I set up, and it's really simple. It only has, let's say, 2 steps, 3 steps. Number one is I'm using the default form, and I've put in an immediate thank you page that sort of just identifies, hey, you've done something, and go check your email. Here I'm simply asking for the bare minimum, first name, last name, and email. Next, I've added an apply a tag step, which comes in and says, look, give these people a tag of cold lead. I don't necessarily need to do that, but the reason I want to do that is because it allows me to know somebody who's specifically maybe gone through this funnel and that they need more attention. I can also use it later to segment them out. Finally, I'm sending them a special confirmation email, which says just essentially, hey, I just sent you a confirmation email to make sure that you're who you say you are. Go over there and make sure that you got it and click the button. And that essentially will remove the tag that has them as unconfirmed and turn them into confirmed, which allows me to know that it's safe to market to them. And I don't know, if you're in Europe and you've got GDPR issues, you can cover your butt there. Now, this I went ahead and set up. It's hidden by my camera here, but I basically made it live and saved it. Then I put it on the actual form. So let's go ahead and see what happens now. I'm going to go over here to this form, and I'm going to say new, well, let's call this person Cold Lead at labsecrets.com. And I'll do this kind of in real time. Now, I don't have any special server set up or anything for the emails. This is my default Cloudways account, which I think it has Easy SMTP installed. But the emails seem to come out really fast anyway. I have set my actual API up so that it's every 1 minute, which may be a little faster than you need to do, but it's plenty fast enough. And I'm also finding that with GroundHogg, this is a system that's a great starting point for a new business who doesn't have 100,000 prospects or contacts. If it's an existing client, they're probably already going to be familiar with a heavyweight, more advanced email server setup on either their existing CRM or some other system. So I like to think of this as sort of Well, the TV dinner comes with the default groundhog. And then if they need to do something more extensive, we can always move them up the chain. But boy, oh boy, is this easy to start with. Okay, so now that I go back over and I'm in the admin, let's look at a couple things. First of all, immediately, they're in GroundHogg as a contact. And that's a difference between, let's say, using a local site where I'm just in my dashboard and I can see everybody and bounce around versus having to go over to, say, a CRM's dashboard. I love the fact that I'm working natively in WordPress. That's a big difference in terms of what I see, what I think, how the styling goes, and just my mindset. But also, let's open up and see. When I look at this person, I can immediately do some manual things if I wanted to. But more importantly is I immediately see on that user what's happened without having to go find them in some kind of a more complex setup. So over here, we can see recent funnel history, right? Filled out the form, I gave them the tag, and then the email was sent. Let's go see if the email actually got here. And here it is. And, again, it's just as simple as, okay, person clicks it, they'll confirm the email. That means that when I go back and look at them again, we should see that their segmentation has that properly filled out. Let's refresh the page. Okay, now we've got the situation, email sent, funnel history is good. Let's look at segmentation. And we see here that we've got the code lead tag. Also know where they came in, which is an amazing feature, just like without having to do anything else, to have the UTM information or the lead source information by default. I could, if I want, assign them to an owner. Again, if this was a hand-to-hand combat sales operation, I kind of really like the fact that I know my contacts are here and I can just say, oh, that's mine, or that's Luke's, or that's Susie's, or that's Steve's. And I've been told there's even a round robin feature. Now, if we look in terms of what's next, well, what if I decide at some point after, let's say, doing some things with this person and maybe taking some notes, spoke to this person, they want to buy, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Maybe I've self-identified them, or they've self-identified as somebody who's a real prospect and or they're going to actually buy. When that happens, either I can force them into being a user and all of their tags come with, or they can do it themselves. The way we do that with WPFusion would be a multitude. We could give them a link that auto registers and logs them in. We can actually force it to be a synchronization event through the WPFusion dashboard and settings. We can use a WooCommerce transaction, even for a free product, which automatically registers them. We can use Gravity Forms, Elementor. There's so many ways. But the easiest way, in my opinion, is simply to use the built-in tools here. So for example, if I wanted to do so, I could go to General Info and just click this darn button here. Now, I love this because there's two choices of how this works. One is I can make a new fresh account if I already know they've never been a user. But even better is, what if they've already bought something or gotten something from me for free inside of my WordPress WooCommerce account? I can go ahead and just choose that existing account. I don't have any here, but I could choose, let's say, their existing account that was created from one of those other methods. So it doesn't pigeonhole me into an only one directional method. I can have somebody who's a contact now, but also a customer now, and then I can synchronize them, or I can have them as a contact now and make them with one button or one action into a user. And all their tags will come with. So let's do one more thing too. I want to add a manual tag. I love this for a lot of reasons. Let's say I'm dealing with people hand-to-hand combat and I'm using this very simple to understand dashboard without the need for a pipe drive or a tubular or anything else. I can go ahead and add a tag on the fly, right? So this is a little weird. I'm not 100% sure how this works. I always get a little stuck. There we go. You add the comma, and now I can just say, I don't know, ready to buy or something. I always mess this up. So ready to buy. There we go. Type, then the comma. I got to remember that. Click update. So now they've got two tags, the code lead tag and the ready to buy tag. Obviously, if I wanted, I could delete the code lead tag. But what I want to say is when you click update, now I want to go ahead and just manually force them over to be a user. I click create user account. And what's going to happen is it's going to automatically register, log them in, send the credentials via email, which is awesome. And now they're ready in WPFusion for all the other things that can happen. What are those? Well, let's say I want to have it where somebody who has a tag of ready to buy is automatically enrolled into a LearnDash course, or automatically given a discount in a product that they can buy in WooCommerce, or they're given a gamification high five and a badge that sticks with them that says, I really appreciate you. What I'm saying is that you can start with their contacts, deal with them just like normal people in WordPress, and then with one button or one simple synchronization, boom, they trigger all the other amazing things that you can already have set up for your normal users. And yet you don't really need to worry about what's the overhead of them, because they're not going to get the other normal user behavior or be notified in advance of, oh, hey, we've registered you, until you're ready, or until you give them something to click that they know is going to make that happen. And yet they're still here in WordPress. So let's go over here now and look at the WordPress users. So we go to users, all users, and we will see that instantaneously, as soon as I refresh the page, the person will be here. And let me double check, because now I sound like I'm saying one thing, doing another. Let me just double check that they've run, because there may be a delay of 1 minute. And I was talking, but maybe I didn't wait the 1 minute. Okay. Let's try it again. Create the user account. I didn't click the second button. I was talking so loud. Be sure that you click add new user. And by the way, of course, you can change the role. Maybe you want to give them a special role, although we usually don't do that. We leave most people as a subscriber. Add new user. That was what I forgot in the first part of the video. Okay. Gives me the opportunity if I wanted to save it. Now we look at the user table, refresh. That actually happened. Took me right over there. Now they are a user. But what I want you to see is over here, Jack has so graciously already made it possible with WPFusion that I can see the tags. And this is really neat too, because even though right now by default, the contacts inside of GroundHogg do not have the ability to easily display people's tags, and I'm sure that this will change. What I found is easy is that you can just add them over as a user, and once they're in the user table, Jack with WPFusion has made it possible to easily see and to filter based upon tags. So we can see them here, but we can also filter by tag and say, you know, cold lead. Show me only those people who are cold leads. Ta-da! As soon as the filter kicks in. Let's try it again. This is the wrong tag. This is the tag for WordPress. Let's do a different one. Let's do, you know what? I got to put it in here. Sorry. I don't have the plugin installed. I have an extra plugin that allows me to basically filter and sort based upon the titles of each of these. And I noticed I didn't put it in. So forgive me, I sound a little weird, but I'm still pretty excited about this. Once I put that extra admin sort by title, I'm actually able to have a parameter here that also says filter by tag, but it means tags. Right now, you just do it through the right-hand side and you can find cold lead. It'll still show up. Okay. Now, what happens in terms of what I can do in the future? Well, the big difference between a person who is a contact in GroundHogg and a user in WordPress with WPFusion is that by default, of course, you can't readily track somebody's behavior when they're not logged in using just WPFusion, because it won't know where to assign the data. We can do a limited amount of things by a cookie before the person's logged in, or if you give them a magic link. But what I really find clever is that there are tools in GroundHogg that we can use right out of the box, including the super links feature, including the ability to embed forms, including the ability to use various events and funnels, where I can now make it very simple to have somebody who comes in who's only a contact and allow them to interact all over the site, keeping all that data, like I just showed you, along with their profile. And then with that one event, sort of pack that suitcase up and move it over and do it in a way that, yes, it is possible, but it requires a lot more interaction in order to make that happen with a third-party CRM, especially because the only real way to send stuff up to the CRM is typically through, you know, using the link tracking behavior with JavaScript and so forth, or by doing something that involves using, you know, Google Tag Manager and whatever. This seems much more accessible. I can create a super link that I can use just about anywhere that allows me to add a tag when somebody does something. So for example, maybe I'm using my favorite flow builder, cart flows, and I say when somebody comes to a landing page and they're interested in a product, if they click this button or that button or the other button in order to choose a variation, I'm going to make each of those variations into a super link. And in the process of clicking any of those choices, it will direct them to the appropriate checkout. But in the process, it'll also give them a tag so that if they don't end up checking out, or maybe if in the future they want to buy a similar product, they're nailed with the tag based upon their preferences of just simply clicking anywhere in the site. And I didn't have to spend more than 10 seconds to do it, right? Let's say this choice is the name of a super link. And I put in a target URL of, it doesn't matter, I'll take them to the home page. And then let's make, again, the same tag selection. We're going to do this choice, and I hit the comma. I add a new super link. And actually, it wants me to put the full launch flow. Let's do launch. Launch flows dot view launch of. All right, so now I've got basically a super link which I can use anywhere on the site, and it's got the ability to use it as a replacement code. So you can also put it inside of, let's say, your emails and so forth. This ability allows me to actually use things like Brizy. Now, most of the time I use Astra and Elementor or Divi, but if I'm using a third-party page builder that's hosted elsewhere, like Brizy, I can actually use these super links over there, even on the hosted version, which again is super handy. So in this particular case, with this choice, I could take that link and use it anywhere so that the person who is browsing, who's already a contact, would be storing and saving the tag that I assign, which is called this choice. Here, let's say in cart flows, I go to cart flows, and inside, again, a sample flow, I can just add a new step that's, let's say, a preliminary page of some kind. And all I need to do is just put that link in there. It could be directly inside of a button using Elementor, or it could just be a hard-coded thing. Put it at the top, edit. You get the gist of it, right? So these are the ways that I'm foreseeing GroundHogg is going to be really amazing. I have some more notes. I took about 4 pages of notes that I'm going to talk about in following videos. But some of the things are super amazing. And some of the things that aren't so super amazing are really just a matter of them tweaking and improving a bit. What I don't know about yet is how many people will this support on a normal host. I have no way of knowing. And I'm also trying to keep track of how emails go out. But for a startup business or even an existing business that is low volume, I'm super excited about how these things will work together. The normal stack, WordPress, WooCommerce, cart flows, WPFusion, your favorite LMS like Lifter or LearnDash, and then GroundHogg is a CRM built in. Looking forward to talking to you guys more about it when I know.